How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here. It's June 27th, 2025, and we have so much to get into in our latest jam-packed Big Mets update segment, because not only did the Mets win this past night by a final score of 4-0 against the Atlanta Braves, but while they found themselves in the win column, they were in the loss column on the rotational front as Griffin Canning not only went down with an Achilles injury, but it appears that he's not going to be returning anytime soon. So what are the Mets going to be doing to rectify the immediate loss, which is Griffin Canning, to this rotation? Well, folks, they have their immediate in-house options as they will be calling up Blade Tidwell this weekend. We're going to expand more on that as to what the expectation is for Blade. What are the other in-house options the Mets have that they can dip into in the farm should they wish going forward? And the Noah McLeans, the Brandon Sproats, and the Jonathans in the world. And from there, we're also going to talk about external options for this Mets team, because we all know David Stearns will be adding players leading up to the MLB trade deadline, but there's no denying that after losing Griffin Canning, potentially for the entire season, mind you, that the likelihood of them trading for a starter has in fact increased. Now the question lies, when are they going to make trades and who are they going to exactly trade for? We're going to expand on that in connection and latest reporting. From there, we're also going to get into what is happening on the roster front, not so much for pitching, but more so on the offensive end, as Mark Vientos is being activated, returning to this Mets team there in Pittsburgh. So who got the axe between Ronnie Mauricio and Jared Young? That is what we'll get into as that news dropped earlier today, and we'll expand our thoughts on that, along with not only everything else happening in Mets land, everybody, with guys like Manaea Senga, and Jesse Winker. Key news to get into on their respective fronts, but we'll wrap up the show by previewing this Pittsburgh Pirates series and the prospects and a whole lot more. So sit back, relax, and get ready for the ride, which is our latest Big Mets update segment. But thank you guys kindly for hitting that like and subscribe button as you first chime in, and letting me know all your initial reactions to all the following topics down below. And thank you guys kindly for that, as well as thank you guys for hearing from our amazing sponsor today that many of you guys know well, our great friends at BetUS, that has you covered with all of your sports betting needs. First, folks, make sure you guys are betting responsibly. That's the most important thing should you guys dabble, and make sure you check them out not only for their sports betting but for their casino as well should you have interest. But if you head over to betus.com.pa today and utilize our promo code YouTube150, you too will get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 or whatever you guys want to find yourself betting. And as you guys can see here right now, the Mets home run props there versus the Pirates this weekend are as follows. Pete Alonso's at plus 400 there to hit a home run in tonight's Game 1 matchup against the Pirates. You got Juan Soto at plus 400, Lindor at plus 450, Nimmo at 500, McNeil at all the way at plus 700, which I kind of love for a guy that I know that he's not known for McBombs too much, but I love those odds as well. Mark Vientos to hit a home run today in his first game back. Kind of love that as well, but if I'm going to be biased here, I love one of the top three, that being an Alonso, Soto, or Lindor to hit one out of the park today in Pittsburgh, especially when you look at the road splits as well. I kind of like to see what a guy like Juan Soto could do in this spot especially, but we will soon find out, everybody. If you guys want to dabble here, check them out at betus.com.pa today, and make sure you guys do it responsibly. But as we hop into this one, everybody, let's first get into, there's so many different topics to get into in this one, everybody, but I do want to start with the fact of what the Mets are immediately doing on the front of their injuries to their rotation, because we know that the Mets obviously need to make sure that they are not only filling the void of Griffin Canning to the best of their ability, but they're also making sure that they're not just putting in constant placeholders that are going to absolutely get this bullpen rocked, because say the starter can't go more than 2 to 3 or tops 4 innings on an every fifth turn out there or so. And as you guys can see here from the following, we're going to pull this up right here right now to give you guys an idea as to what the latest reporting is. And this comes courtesy of our great friend on the platform that many of you guys know at Will Salmon of The Athletic. So make sure to check out this article after you guys watch this video should you have interest. But this dropped late last night, right around midnight, which states the following: an update story on Griffin Canning's Achilles injury. Blade Tidwell is expected to join the club in Pittsburgh per sources. Mets bullpen answer the call. We talked about that last night. And Manaea said he felt good, normal after he resumed throwing today. That's all positive as well. So we'll go in order in direct hand there with this reporting, guys. So what we need to know is the following: Blade Tidwell is the immediate corresponding move with Griffin Canning likely being placed on the IL for a significant period of time. And especially if Griffin Canning is going to be on the IL, 60-day IL, where he's pretty much off the 40-man entirely, don't be surprised if the Mets not only dabble in the farm for guys like Blade Tidwell, but they go after something greater, whether that's a Noah McLean, a Brandon Sproat, or honestly something that isn't talked about nearly enough in my opinion, and Jonathan. Yes, I do believe that there is a world where Jonathan is in fact considered over those two other guys, and I will expand on that more in future content throughout the week because we have a lot to talk about on that front. But in the case of the immediate upgrades for this rotation, or not even upgrades, but just the immediate replacements for Griffin Canning, Blade Tidwell looks like he will be that corresponding move this weekend to pitch there in Pittsburgh. He was initially slated to pitch this past Thursday, but that was rained out there for AAA Syracuse, paving the way for Blake Tidwell to be called up by the Mets a week after he was just sent back down after going 3 innings or so there, 3.2 to be exact, in Philadelphia, allowing 2 earned runs. But it really wasn't a bad outing at all by Blake Tidwell. He topped out 97 and 99 on the gun, had some nice high heat. There are qualities of Blake Tidwell's game that should have you enticed as a Mets fan, no doubt about it. But the big question with Tidwell is, are the Mets just considering him as a spot starter right now for the next turn in the order? Because that's what it feels like. Because given Sean Manaea's recent setback that we broke down a day ago, he's now back throwing. He's feeling good after having that cortisone shot, and that's great to hear. So Sean Manaea is slated. Obviously, he will be having probably one more rehab outing, and that's that. So with the expectation that Sean Manaea makes his Mets debut this season in that series against the New York Yankees, because that's how everything is kind of slotted right now for him to return roughly right around that Subway Series, on the 4th, 5th, or 6th, somewhere in that range. So should that be the case, everybody, should Sean Manaea return around that time, that means the Mets just need one full turn or so in their rotation to be covered right now, which is why Blake Tidwell will likely find himself getting a look this weekend. So that is the immediate impact that you're seeing, at least, whether Tidwell gets to start this weekend or just the next turn in the order in general for Canning. Either way, everybody, it does appear that is the immediate route the Mets are going. If you're wondering why are they doing that over, say, Noel McLean, over, say, Brandon Spurt, over, say, Jonathan, the reason why they're doing this is because if they're only going to have Blake Tidwell in there for one turn in the rotation before probably sending back down from Manaea, what's the point in, say, activating Jonathan onto the 40-man while you'll have to make a corresponding move if he will not be staying up here, right? The Mets want to make sure that in the case of, guys like Ton, McLean, etc., that they are up here for the long haul, that they're actually here to stay. Otherwise, there's literally no point in burning their first year of club control just for the sake of having a start or two and then being sent back down to AAA Syracuse. So that's what the Mets are immediately doing for their rotation. And I say immediate because what the Mets are doing now is not necessarily indicative of how this rotation will look a week to 2 weeks from now. Because outside of Sean Manaea, once the Simone Southpaw returns to this Metropolitan rotation, we all know very well how impactful he can and most certainly will be. Once you add him back in the fold for this rotation, that pretty much is the immediate replacement for Griffin Canning. So you lose Griffin Canning, but you gain Sean Manaea in the process. And then you think of the other key players in here, and that is Mr. Kodai Senga and Tyler McGill. While we haven't heard any key updates on the Tyler McGill front to this point, at least, we do know that Kodai Senga is feeling good, and that is very positive, obviously. And it looks like that he is not a long ways away now from beginning his rehab. We will find out further clarity on that in the coming days, but everything is looking good on the Kodai Senga front, which is very encouraging here. As we know, Senga will begin his rehab sooner than later, and then from there, we will have him obviously hopefully get back to this team before the month of July ends. That would be the most ideal situation. If not, you're not going to get Senga back till right around the MLB trade deadline as August begins there, or even though the deadline, I should say, is July 31st. Then we have August 1st, which is Wardy Day, that you guys can check out, link down below the description, but we'll expand on that more later as it will be our first official event at Citi Field, hanging out with all you amazing Mets fans this season. It'll be electric, but that's what we know for the Mets rotation and how things are currently looking for at least the next week or so of the layout. Yes, I completely understand the reservations. I understand the concerns with a guy like Paul Blackburn having to rely further on him, and maybe he doesn't go deep for the Mets again. Blake Tidwell, maybe he doesn't even go beyond 3 innings yet again in his latest outing for the Mets once he's back out there towing the rubber. Or maybe in the case there of Clay Holmes, how productive can he be after giving the Mets a solid, 5+ inning performance of 1 earned run baseball, but still allowed 4 walks? Can David Pearson bounce back from allowing 5 earned runs across just 4 innings his last time out there when he initially was coming out? So there are plenty of things not working well in the Mets' favor on the rotation and bullpen front, and Griffin Canning's injury certainly is more salt in the wound, but thankfully this does feel like something that the Mets will be able to get over the hump on. And the reason why I'm confident the Mets get over the hump on these pitching injuries is not just because of their in-house options, but also what they are considering externally. Because when we talk about external options, everybody, as I mentioned, the likelihood of the Mets trading for a starter has in fact been increased, meaning that the Mets are more than likely going to be finding themselves landing at least one starter by this year's MLB trade deadline. But the big question is, what starter are they going to find themselves landing? And there is many belief out there that the Mets are going to go out of their way to try to land a starter that, again, is not going to be necessarily the most hot commodity of a starter at the MLB trade deadline, but a guy that can be productive for them right away. And there's a guy that can be productive for them right away that they could probably trade for before the trade deadline. And while, yes, there is going to be a decent cost because there will be a bit of a bidding war for him, even with his underwhelming season, guys, it is no denying that a guy like Sandy Alcantara, however you pronounce Sandy's name, is a guy that very well could be one of the best fits for the Mets, in my opinion, when evaluating external trade options. And the reason why I'm so confident as I say that in regards to someone like Sandy has everything to do with the fact that Sandy is one of these guys that can come in and impact this team right away while you're not having to give up the same arm and a leg that you would otherwise have to do if you were this New York Mets team for, say, a Freddie Peralta from a Milwaukee Brewers club right now. That in case you guys have not been paying attention, the Brewers have been performing much better as of late this season. So he is one of those guys that, we have to kind of see it to believe it, if he's even going to be considered there, to be dealt leading up to the MLB trade deadline. But in the case of Sandy, we know that the likelihood of this man being traded is pretty much a slam dunk. According to Jeff Passan, there's at least a 60% chance that Sandy's going to be dealt. And as you guys can see from the numbers down below this season, I know that they are underwhelming, no doubt about it. 15 starts, 74 innings, a 6.69 ERA, a 4.69 expected ERA, and a 4.69 FIP. Leaves a bit to be desired for a once Cy Young worthy pitcher now in Sandy, who's been a shell of that in his first full season back, coming back from injury, in which he hasn't really pitched this amount since the 2023 season, which is why the highlights I'm showing you are more of the 2023 Sandy versus current Sandy, because there aren't a whole lot of positive highlights to show so far this season, and I just was trying to find what I could find out there on the web. But just over 7 K per nine to just over 4 walks per nine this season, when mind you, Sandy usually is more the higher echelon in those respective numbers. He's usually a guy that's more in the 10 plus K per nine range, normally can strike out guys at a great clip there. But what we're seeing right now this season, not the best out of Sandy, and let's get into why exactly that is. Because when you look at Sandy's peripherals through Baseball Savant, he obviously has a 4-seam, he's got the sink piece, he has the entire 5-pitch mix, but headline by those pitches, has a changeup in there as well that he isn't utilizing as much as he did in 2023, where that was a more of an effective pitch for him as to what it's been this season. But Sandy he has the velocity. We know he's elite. He's in the 90th plus percentile in average velocity, sitting 97 plus on the gun. And we know that this is the same Sandy that sits 97 to 99 plus, that can even hit the triple digits when he's really in a groove. And he can go out and dominate on any given day, but there's just been no flow of consistency there whatsoever. I think this is a combination of not only Sandy being overworked a lot early in his young career, especially under Don Mattingly, and I will always beat that drum. Don Mattingly drilled Sandy into the ground when he was a starter for the Miami Marlins. So much so that I did have a lot of reservations that this guy's elbow is going to be, like pulled pork, like not ideal by the time he's in his early 30s. And he's 29 now, and there isn't too much that's progressing to suggest that his stuff is going to immediately find itself, but he has the pure athleticism and the pure talent alone to tell you that in a change of scenery, especially after going from being very unmotivated, I'm sure, pitching for the Miami effing Marlins, out of all teams that are going nowhere this year, to them being added right into the heart of a playoff race is where I think you can get the best out of Sandy. Because mind you, the last time that Sandy pitched in a full season, he was used to competing. Sandy helped the Miami Marlins actually have a playoff berth back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, they completely blew it up, obviously, in Miami under Peter Bendick, since they changed the front office from Kim to Peter there. And Sandy is a guy that has a 2027 club option. So there is a level of team control here, and knowing that you're not just trading for a full rental is also another factor as to why I find it so appealing for someone like David Stearns and this Mets team. And then you add in how there are multiple players that have advocated for Sandy going back to earlier this season, including guys like Sterling Marte, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, among others. So there's already a contingent of Mets players that have great relationships with Sandy that would like to see Sandy a part of this New York Metropolitan squad. And I think that he's absolutely a slam dunk of a guy that you're not going to have to give up a complete arm and a leg for, versus some other starter options leading up to the MLB trade deadline. They're having more effective seasons, one, and are two, going to be more costly because maybe they have more team control than even a guy like Sandy. Like another pitcher that I like a lot, that I've talked about plenty on the platform outside of guys like Sandy, obviously, Freddie Peralta, one healthy, one right, Pablo Lopez is a shooting for the stars type, but Mitch Keller, the Pittsburgh Pirates, is a guy I like quite a bit, who's sitting right around a 4 ERA this season, but has multiple years of control still, and I think that he actually may come at a potential higher price point than Sandy, Sandy just because of one, of the consistency you get in a guy like Mitch Keller should be traded, and two, I think the potential of him blossoming further in a greater lab than what he has there in Pittsburgh. I think the same exact thing applies and then some to a guy like Sandy here, everybody. So I would definitely love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on the front of Sandy. Is he the type of starter that you guys could see the Mets trading for the MLB trade deadline? Would you like the Mets to trade for maybe some retreads there, as we're going to be talking about more on the platform, maybe some former Mets starters coming back to Queens? Would you be in favor of more former retreads or guys who have not been here before? Because while Sandy doesn't have endless playoff experience, he does have that little taste of a sample size from a couple seasons ago. He knows what it takes to win, obviously, throughout that stretch of what was a successful 2023 season for that Miami Marlins team. And Miami just feels like a destination in similarity to Luis Robert that we broke down the platform yesterday. Just give the guy a change of scenery outside of the current state and city that they're in, and good things are more than likely going to happen. I have the utmost confidence in what Sandy can do added to this rotation with Jeremy Hefner, with Desi Drewskull, with Eric Yagers, and this entire Mets pitching lab. And the reason why I'm specifically emphasizing Sandy over the abundance of other starters that we will see available leading up to the deadline is I think Sandy fits the mold better than most on not only what the cost will be to acquire a player like him, even in a bidding war, it shouldn't be nearly the same extent as, say, a Freddie Peralta, or obviously when healthy, a Pablo Lopez, or even to a degree, maybe a Mitch Keller, even though I know Mitch doesn't throw gas like Sandy. Mitch is also a more consistent and more, slam dunk guarantee of a starter and what you know you're getting every fifth turn in the order or sixth turn in the order. The way that the Mets don't have a guarantee at all in the case of Sandy and what you're getting should you trade for him this season. You're just kind of shooting for the stars and hoping for the best that the VLO will continue to play up and you can really fine-tune other aspects of his game. But I think he just checks off more boxes than most, especially in the interim, as the likelihood of the Mets trading for a starter has in fact been increased. That's the most important aspect out of this all, everybody. You're going to have guys like Gainy Martino throw cold water on that earlier today. He came out with a piece telling you how the Mets are basically going to be fine, and that's very much his MO to do. And I do think that the Mets are going to be okay regardless. But to lose another key starter this season, especially in the case of Griffin, who appears like he's not returning again this season, or at least not anytime soon, that's an immediate blow for this team. And you'd be fooling yourself if you don't think the Mets will at minimum be opportunistic in trying to add depth to this rotation, because it would be silly for them not to do that, because all it takes is more pitching injuries post-trade deadline when you don't have any reinforcements outside of your minor league options. And if the minor league options maybe don't pan out, maybe they don't blossom the way that you hope, then you really shot yourself in the foot, and then you look absolutely silly heading into postseason play with no stability on the rotation whatsoever. Add that stability to win now stage with your core group. Don't waste any more time, especially in the case of David Stearns. Go out there and make the proper moves. And I would even make the argument that the Mets should be proactive, and it wouldn't hurt them if they did try to consider trading for a starter before the actual deadline itself. We're just about a calendar month out or so from the MLB trade deadline on July 31st. It would be really nice to see if the Mets did make a surprise move for, say, a starter. They could have one swing before the All-Star break. If not, then we will see something happen post-All-Star break naturally, and between that 2-week span from that point up until the deadline itself. But let me know your thoughts on Sandy, guys, and other starters that you like for this Mets team, as a trade for a pitcher has in fact been increased without question with Griffin Canning going down with injury. And we have a lot more still to get into in this video, everybody, including the news that Mark Vientos is being activated, but we do have some key news as to what the corresponding move is in fact going to be, as that has been made official today. We have a lot more to talk about, including guys like Jesse Winker, as well as that Pirates preview, a bit on the prospects, and everything else in between, everybody. But before we do exactly that, let's just hear another quick word from another video sponsor today. But before we get into today's video, folks, I'm really excited to announce today's sponsor, because not only is it just because they're a sponsor, but they're a product that I've been actively utilizing, and they have certainly helped me, especially when it comes to calming down. That is our great friends here at IndaCloud, because IndaCloud, folks, if you're 21 and older just like me, you are eligible to utilize their products here, and they have you covered on all things hemp-derived THC. And as someone who personally likes to utilize these products mainly for winding down at night, getting set to go to bed versus having a restless mind at night that I otherwise find myself having, these products have been absolutely clutch, and I hope you find yourself having interest in these should you go out to seek them, because they have a variety of ones to choose from. The ones I've been utilizing the most by far right now are their IndaCloud Bliss Gummies before bed. They are 5 milligrams each. I usually utilize around 10 milligrams each of the THC, and they get the job done for me around 30 to 40 minutes, and you really start to feel them kick in. I'm kind of seeing sinking in my bed in the best way possible. They're just so comfortable. I don't know how else to explain it. You also have their rope gummies as well. Their THC products that you can utilize. This is out of 150 milligrams. They have popping candy as well. No, I'm not joking, where as soon as you pop in your mouth, they're going to crack just the way that you would see other candy do. And this is the nighttime version. This is the one that I personally have utilized and I did like quite a bit. It's very sweet. Haven't utilized the daytime one yet. And there are also other gummy versions, whether you're going to have their various soda flavors like orange soda here, these little gummies, or you guys are going to have green apple. They also have strawberry, grape, you name it. And if you're more of a purist, maybe you like to go more of the smoking route, they have pre-rolls as well. So again, guys, why do I love InnerCloud so much, utilizing their products? Well, as someone who's not really trying to get as uplifted, even though you can certainly do that with these products, I like to have a calm situation happen, getting set for bed. And that's where these in particular, and these so far from all the products that I've utilized, have really gotten the job done for me. So if you guys have interest, especially in hemp-derived THC products, whether it's to be uplifted, elevated, or more like me, the latter, which is to be calm, cool, and comfortable, getting set for a good night's sleep, they have you covered, everybody. So head over there with our friends at InnerCloud. Again, you got to make sure you are 21 or older. That's very important. And that way you can float above the stress here, because InnerCloud is giving away to all new customers 25% off their first order plus free shipping. Again, to all new customers, that is 25% off plus free shipping. Just utilize our promo code that you guys see right down there at Wardy, or click the link down below in the description to utilize said code. That's InnerCloud.co, INDACLUD, I should say, .co. Use code WARDY one more time, everybody, for free shipping plus 25% off your first order. And when you order, make sure you fill out that little quick survey that they have, because it really helps support the platform, as obviously it helps keep InnerCloud sending you the good stuff. I'm sure you're not going to complain about that if you find yourself enjoying the products. So go ahead, tell your future self you got it covered, then grab a gubby and vibe out with our great friends at InnerCloud. Shout out to them once more. All right, folks, as we continue to have our discussion here, let's now get into the news that dropped, mind you, right before I start recording this video. So perfect timing today. I'm actually really happy that I didn't record this the night before, because for those that don't know, a lot of the times when I post these big Mets updates segment, and they drop around 10 a.m. or so, that's because I likely recorded that the night after, and right after I did my post-game show. Wasn't the case today, and I'm actually really happy about that, because we've been noticing as of late with a lot of Mets transactional news usually not happening that we see until we know at least the early goings of the day. And we do have some key news, so let's go ahead and get into what exactly that is, everybody, as I'm sure you're going to be happy to see it to a degree. It is right here, everybody, so let me just move this aside. Give me 1 second, because of course I grabbed the wrong thing here. Let's do this, a little bang, bang, boom, and then we're good to go. All right, guys, as you guys can see here right now, the Mets are, in fact, sending down Jared Young as a corresponding move to activate Mark Vientos, meaning that Ronnie Mauricio is staying on this roster. Now, I got to be honest, guys, 48 hours ago, I would have been very surprised if you told me that Ronnie Mauricio was staying on this team. But listen, it's a results-oriented business, and the Mets clearly like what they saw enough from Ronnie the past 48 plus hours on top of everything else he's done at this point this season, that they feel Ronnie's worth is still on this team. And I'm happy about this, guys, because with the exception of sending down Acuna for Travis Jankowski, which I thought did make a lot of sense. Jankowski is exactly what Acuna is, as the pinch runner, that late game replacement especially, and the Mets have an abundance of infield options, so they really don't have room for Acuna, so might as well give him consistent reps in AAA for the time being. And Jankowski, you're not hurting development because he knows his role. He knows it plenty. He's done this throughout his entire career. And Jared Young, while he did have some flashes, had some nice home runs, and the Mets actually had a really good record with Jared Young for the most part for a while, up until their latest stretch the past couple of weeks. Ronnie Mauricio, though, just brings more qualities to his game than Jared Young can. And let's start with the following. What does Ronnie Mauricio bring on the infield front? It's more versatility. Jared Young is more of a backup first base option than anything else in DH. The Mets are not going to play him in any other position. Ronnie Mauricio can play second, third. If you really need him to, he can play short, and he'll play at least at a rate where you're not, pulling your hair out because the guy doesn't know how to field a ball. He might not be elite every time, and he might have an error or two, and that's going to happen. But Ronnie Mauricio's defense has not necessarily been a massive liability to the same degree that it honestly was for Vientos in the first half of the season leading up to his injury. And that is not a slant on Mark, just the reality of the situation. We know Mark has been underwhelming defensively, and Ronnie has had an error or two, but that's pretty much been about it. Otherwise, he's been fine, especially whether he's at third or second base. And then you add in not only the defensive attributes, with the versatility, you add in the offensive attributes. Ronnie Mauricio just has more upside than Jared Young, point blank. I mean, Ronnie is a very intriguing player right now. He's batting, just over 220 or so for the Mets right now, just under 700 OPS. But there are absolute qualities to like about Ronnie. And for one, the guy's power is awesome. And this is not to take away from Jared Young, because I know Jared Young has plenty of power and that bat as well. But Ronnie, his ability to hit from both sides, for one, and two, knowing that there is more flexibility with a bat like him because he hits from both sides, meaning that you can have Ronnie start a game, but maybe later on in the game you have someone else come in to pinch it in a key situation where maybe you didn't like Ronnie batting from the right side. Maybe you want Starling Marte to come in later in the game, or maybe you otherwise wouldn't because you kept Jared Young in the ball game. So there are many factors that went into this Mets decision, I'm sure, as Carlos Mendoza will tell the media later on today before that Pirates series begins, the same way that he will likely tell you all that we did find out imaging on Canning. It is not looking good. He's being placed on the injured list, but he's not going to return anytime soon. That's the expectation right now at the time of this video coming out, at least. The same way the expectation for this Mets infield is that if they can get these in-house options to work, the Mets may not need to trade for an infielder after all. And this is what the Mets need to do. And it makes sense because you have a couple weeks away, obviously, from the All-Star break, the MLB draft, and all that fun stuff. Might as well lean into your youth movement now. See what you have over the next couple weeks in Brett Baty and Ronnie Mauricio, continuing to get daily starts there to see if they can propel enough in the bottom half of that order there to make the Mets think harder about really considering someone for the infield externally over their current in-house options. Because the Mets just have an abundance of guys to choose from. And it's a shame that no one's been able to really run away with things consistently yet. I hope that Mark can do that again with him returning to this Mets team, at least as a lethal DH bat, if he's not going to be getting much infield reps at third base. But expect a rotation, everybody, especially knowing that Ronnie's versatile defensively and can bat from both the left and the right side. The Mets are going to be taking that into account, and they will be taking advantage of that for sure in a positive way by utilizing Baty in certain areas, Mauricio in certain areas, Vientos in certain areas. I know you're not going to love to hear this, but Vientos more than likely will probably be getting some reps at third base still, and it'll be fluctuating from third to DH, which I respectfully disagree with, mainly because I just don't see how, for a young player in Vientos, maybe this is the wrong mentality that I have, but I just don't see from his point of view how he's benefiting at all to work on his defensive game if he's not getting consistent reps at the same position that has been his defensive liability that the Mets need him to get reps out of. It just doesn't make sense to me. Whereas at DH, he knows he can focus solely on his batting, and that might bode best for this Mets team that's trying to find more length in their lineup to not be so top heavy with their 1 through 4 with Lindor, Nimmo, Soto, Alonso. If you have Vientos getting back at all to what he was last year as a home run hitter, number 27, heading 27 home runs in just over 100 games last season, and then all the postseason heroics, defensive liability or not, we know the bat at minimum is absolutely there, even with the luck that he had last season. So that is why I'm really intrigued to see how this is all going to play out between Vientos as well as Ronnie Mauricio staying on this ball club. And that was a smart move. That made no sense. Initially, I completely understood why to send Ronnie down, but knowing that Ronnie's now staying on this team makes sense as long as he's getting the reps. And he will be getting the reps. And why will he be getting the reps is because Jeff McNeil is going to continue to platoon in the outfield and the infield, especially with Tyron Taylor. Tyron's been productive, but McNeil has been really, really good. So good lately that you can make the argument that Jeff should get more reps in center and or left field, depending on matchups right now, because of how well he's swinging the bat. Meaning then that second and third base, you go back with Ronnie at second, you put Brett at third, and you put Mark Vientos at DH. That is how the Mets should be cooking right now, and that is as good of a youth movement as you could ask for, with the exception of Luis Angel Acuna now getting consistent reps in AAA Syracuse. So Mets fans, definitely let me know all your thoughts about that in the comments down below, especially on the front of Ronnie staying here over Jared Young. That's obviously very intriguing. Never going to complain about something like that. Obviously, that's positive. The same way we also have a positive, not only on the Ronnie Mauricio front, but we have another on the Jesse Winker front. And also shout out Pitch Profiler on X that you guys can see here. He said, Daddy chill in the case of Danilo Nunez. Daddy chill for Danilo. He was fantastic last night. If you guys did not see Nunez's back was 17% above league average in his four-seam fastball, which was sitting 97, touching 99 last night. And then the pro stuff there on his slider was right around league average too. He was fantastic. Danilo Nunez looks like he's back, baby. Shout out to Andrew Tredinik there, who does a very good job covering the Mets as well there, that you guys see on X. He did report, he was one of the few to report this past day that Jesse Winker will in fact be scheduled to begin his rehab assignment this Sunday. Sunday in High A Brooklyn. So Jesse Winker will be batting, I'm sure, at the DH position there and High A this Sunday there for the Brooklyn Cyclones, and then he will continue to ramp up there in his rehab, everybody. So I'm really excited to see Jesse Winker back. We know how much of a Swiss Army knife of a player he is, in the sense that he is a weapon, not only on the field, but especially in that clubhouse. The vibes that he brings to this clubhouse are tremendous, and he's a guy that you hate to play up against when he's red hot, and the guy you absolutely love to have on your team. He talks smack, he backs it up too, has big home run power. We know we can do that in postseason play, especially. We know we can go gap to gap, but let's not forget, Winker hasn't had too many great flashes this season, but he did have some nice big games, including like a game like it felt like, what was it, 2 triples or so? It was like an absurd game he had earlier this season with multiple extra base hits, leading the Mets to victory. Jesse, I like a lot, and what very well could be his final season as a New York Met, in part because of him being derailed with injury, sadly. We'll see what happens with him in the second half, but hey, you know what? I will be optimistic. The Mets brought Jesse Winker back this past year when he did not start playing for them until after August when they trade for him. So if you view that in the same light, you're getting Jesse Winker back. Hopefully there you can have him, at this rate, with him starting rehab this Sunday, he's still probably not going to return to this Mets team until, post All-Star break. Maybe he gets in here right before then. We'll see. But regardless, even if you don't get him back until, mid to late July, that is still the same Jesse Winker that you're getting for the second half of the season, and should be able to impact you similarly to how he did last year, if not better. So just some food for thought for each and every one of you that are wondering what the immediate impact for Jesse will be and what his role will be. It'll obviously be that platoon DH spot. I do not want to see Jesse Winker play a single inning of outfield ever again for the Mets this season, because in the same time that he tried to do that in the same exact game, the only attempt that he's ever had in the outfield this season was in that doubleheader against the Cardinals. The first play he tried to make, he had that grade 2 oblique straight. That alone is why I never want to see Jesse Winker playing the outfield again. Fool me once, shame on me, but there is no fooling Wardy twice. Keep that man in platoon DH from Marte with Ronnie, with Vientos, and that again leads a greater question. When Winker does eventually return, do the Mets keep Ronnie Mauricio on this roster? Do they send down Travis Jankowski and say, you know what, we're going to sacrifice losing speed and another fourth outfielder because we know we just added another lefty bat that has more upside and more impact right away off the bench at DH in other situations versus what Jankowski gives you? Or would it be a guy like Ronnie if Ronnie's playing time gets even further limited? We'll have to just wait and see on that front, everybody. But last but not least, everybody, before we get out of here, final things I want to share with you guys today are twofold. One, we're going to give you guys a quick preview of this Pittsburgh Pirates matchup here beginning on later this evening for you guys to check out and be on the lookout for your guy Wardy. I'll be live directly after the ball game like I typically am. And also, guys, make sure you're chiming in because we have the prospect report for you. So let's actually begin here so briefly with the prospect report. It'll be easier for me to rapid fire that, knowing I have incentive that there is one more topic I have to get into. Otherwise, I might drag the prospects a little bit longer just because I like talking about the prospects. This is one of these things that I did not do every year on WardyNYM. We really got more involved on daily prospect reporting made last season to later last season, and we have been doing it pretty much daily since then throughout the course of regular season play for these minor league teams. I've been very happy about it because I know that there are positives for sure when we evaluate right now what you're getting in the Mets minor leagues, because every Mets minor league team right now looks good for the most part. And the Jupiter Mets did in fact lose this past night, however, by a final score 6-0. Not a lot to love there, but we did see Austin, who got the start here for the for the Port St. Lucie Mets, go 4 innings of 1 earned run baseball. It was De Leon there who got absolutely rocked that we saw 2 earned runs in that outing. He was the main culprit, as well as Lewis, who is relieving as well. But that's about all she wrote on the front of the prospects to everybody, and that is about it. So, guys, we also have news, some breaking news actually, that I need to share with each and every one of you. Mainly because of the fact that it has to do with Mets prospects, and it came out right as we're recording this. Per Danny Abriano, shout out to him. He does a very good job there at SNY. A big follower here. Just spoke with Jonathan Pintaro. As we know, Pintaro was sent down by the Mets a day ago for Austin Warren after giving up a couple runs in his MLB debut in that Mets 7-3 victory in Game 3, the 4-game set a couple days ago against the Braves. But Danny just said that he just spoke to Pintaro, who said he's going to be working as a reliever going forward. He'll get acclimated to the role with AAA Syracuse. He also discussed his battle with Ronald Acuna. Piece coming to SNY.TV in a bit. So if you guys want to check out that piece, go ahead. But okay, Pintaro, who mind you had a 3.4 ERA this season with the Realm Ponies across 11 starts. Keyword starts. Pintaro was being stretched as a starter all season long. Now he's going to be utilized as a reliever option, solely a reliever option for the Mets. And that's how they're obviously going to get immediate upside out of Pintaro. And they're going to be able to rely back with Pintaro should he succeed in this reliever role going forward and develop well in Syracuse. I will not be surprised if the Mets call up Pintaro again someone in the near future as the reliever carousel continues, as we know that they need an abundance of arms right now with all their injuries that they've sustained and the lack of consistency. Brooklyn Cyclones did lose their game as well, 5-4, but they're 15-22, so not too much to complain about for Brooklyn. On the offensive end, De Los Santos ripped his second double of the year there that we saw. Outside that, not a whole lot to take away. Ewing looked fantastic in center field, 2 for 5, a 302 average, 805 OPS. And then we saw Suero steal his 23rd stolen bag of the year. That's notable only because Suero, who's batting 248 with an 832 OPS, has been playing first base, catcher, and left field this season outside of DH for the Brooklyn Cyclones. The Bronx native is one of the most uber athletic players the Mets have in their farm, and it's been really cool to see the development that he's had positively so far this season. And on the pitching end, Gurdon won 4 innings of 1 earned run baseball, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts, a 2.87 ERA. Mets pitching continues to dominate pretty much on all fronts that we've seen in the minor leagues. As we then get on to the Rumble Ponies, everybody, the Rumble Ponies win their ball game 2-1. 47-23 is the record for them this season. And the stolen bags, we see Carson Bench had not won by 2. So Carson Bench, who was just called up, Mets first round pick from last year, to the Rumble Pony level over the past week. He finally had his first 2 stolen bases of the season for the Rumble Ponies. Nick Morabito is now up to 30 stolen bags on the year. Speed Demon, he was the Mets minor league player of the year for those that don't know. And Morabito's been tremendous this season. He's batting 304 with an 816 OPS for the Rumble Ponies. Cannot wait to see this kid at the major league level. Morabito is a ball player. Morabito reminds me a lot of the Tyrone Taylors, and even to a degree Jet Williams, like just ball players, like guys I have confidence that once they do get consideration at the major league level, they might not light the world on fire, but they're just ball players that you're going to enjoy having because they are really good on going gap to gap, hitting for all fields, great contact ability. I like Morabito a lot, and I'm curious to see how he continues this season. Jet Williams went over, but he's batting 291 with an 899 OPS at shortstop and leadoff in this one. Benj 1 for 2 that we saw finally with his first hit there at the Rumble Pony level. Jacob Reimer, who was a call-up as well along with him, he was fantastic that we saw there for the Brooklyn Cyclones. Reimer went 1 for 2 with an RBI, and that's all sure Kevin Prada. Another game with a hit. He's batting 235 now with a 723 OPS. Very notable because he was horrendous earlier this season. Joander Suarez, love me some Joander. He went 6 innings of 2 hit, 1 earned run baseball, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts, and a 3.72 ERA. Love that from Mr. Suarez. Ryan Lambert won 1 scoreless inning in relief, including 3 strikeouts. Cornelia won 2 scoreless innings, including 3 strikeouts. He has a sub-4 ERA. Suarez has a sub-4 ERA, and Lambert has a sub-3 ERA. So lots of love there. And last but not least, Syracuse Mets did in fact win. 5-1 was the final in their latest ball game. And the notables on the offensive end were Luis Angel Acuna looking fantastic. Again, that we saw in this one, everybody. I actually apologize. We have nothing from Syracuse. This was the game from 2 nights ago. I was going to relay the numbers again, but I shouldn't because the game was rained out. This was a game that Blake Tidwell was supposed to start. Instead, now he's getting the call for the Mets this weekend. So that is what you have there on the prospect end, everybody. Now, without further ado, before we get out of here, let me give you a quick breakdown and deep dive into the Mets series preview against the Pittsburgh Pirates beginning later this evening, as game 1 is regarding a starter that I want to see in Queens. I like him a lot, guys. I hated him when he drilled Starling Marte a couple years ago. That derailed the Mets to a degree in 2022 in the second half, but I do like him as a starter. And Mitch Keller, with his 4 ERA, is facing off against David Peterson. The odds are in the Mets' favor, as Mitch Keller is 1-10 on the season. What an absolute shame for the young right-hander. Imagine being 1-10 with just around a 4 ERA and 73 strikeouts. He's not bad at all. The Pirates just suck up until they're playing the Mets, where we'll see how they perform. David Peterson, 5-3, 2.98 ERA. Game 2 this Saturday, everybody. That's going to be a 4 o'clock game. Paul Blackburn with a 6.62 ERA is facing the great to be determined. So we'll see what the Pirates do there for game 3, as would be the case during game. Actually, that's a lie. The Pirates posted, I'm almost certain that the Pirates put on X earlier today what their actual lineup is, everybody. So give me a second to check that. Now, not a lineup, but their actual starters for the series, because I could have sworn that even though the app isn't telling, yeah, this is it. They posted this a day ago, and I was 100% right. Mitch Keller is towing the rubber for game 1. Bailey Falter, the southpaw, former Philadelphia Phillies, towing the rubber for game 2. And Mike Burrows, the young right-hander, is towing the rubber there for game 3, the day game there at 1:35 p.m. Eastern. That'll be up against Frankie Montas, who went 5 shutty, and the Mets a very unfortunate loss there to the Atlanta Braves just a couple days ago. So what do the Mets need to do against the Pittsburgh Pirates? You have to go out and win the series. Pittsburgh is usually trap series for this Mets team. I can count endless series where the Mets head over to Pittsburgh, even when they're playing good baseball, and they have underwhelming play because this Pirates team usually plays up to the Mets, especially in Pittsburgh. It has not been the best series when we've ended up landing there. So I don't know what to expect in this series, but I do know that the Mets need to go out and win at least 2 out of 3. The Pirates are like 20 games below 500. It's an absolute joke if the Mets don't win the series for one. So they need to go out and do that. And secondly, it'd be great if this could be a statement series for a Mets team that has been very underwhelming on the road this season. The Mets have not had at all consistent production from guys like Francisco Lindor among their other key leaders on the road this season. This is a great kind of stat padding opportunity over the weekend where you're not facing Paul Skeens. You don't have to worry about Jared Jones because he's out with injury, obviously. The best starter out of the group that you're facing is Mitch Keller, who is rock solid and will probably go 6 or 7 strong innings against this Mets team. But go out and pounce on the lesser team that is the Pirates. Go out and take advantage of the opportunity here and go out and stat pad and find yourself more than one column so that way you can continue to build upon your current lead there in first place over the Philadelphia Phillies, who after doing well against the Mets got absolutely swept big time against the Houston Astros. So folks, that is what I got for our latest Big Mets update segment. Thank you guys all so much for hitting that like and subscribe on your way in and on your way out. Let me know all your key reactions down below in the comments to all we broke down today. And again, be on the lookout for all Mets content that we will have pumping out for you guys throughout the course of not only today, but throughout the entire season as we always do. Thank you guys again. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out, folks. Have a great one.